You know, we're surrounded by billions, literally billions of tiny electronic switches that make our entire modern world tick. They're inside your phone, they're in your computer, they're running the power grid. They are the absolute fundamental building block of all digital electronics, and they're called MOSFETs. So today we're going to break down exactly what they are, how they really work, and why the perfect switch, well, it doesn't quite exist. Okay, to get started, just picture a normal light switch. But imagine it has absolutely zero moving parts to ever wear out. It's completely solid state, and it's so ridiculously small that a modern computer chip has billions of them packed inside. Now, take that same tiny switch, and imagine it can flick on and off millions, maybe even billions of times every single second. That incredible speed and mind-boggling scale? That's what a MOSFET brings to the table, and it's what makes all of our modern tech possible.
So what does that crazy name actually stand for? You ready for this? It's a metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor. Yeah, quite a mouthful, right? A little intimidating for sure.
But don't worry, I promise that is the only time I'm going to say that full name. From here on out, we're just going to call them MOSFETs because, honestly, that's what everyone in the real world does anyway. So, let's start with the ideal version of this thing, the simple, clean, perfect switch that engineers wish existed. In theory, it's actually incredibly straightforward. Your typical MOSFET has three main connections: the gate, the drain, and the source. Now think of the gate as the control lever. When you apply just a little bit of voltage to that gate, a conductive path, what we call the channel, magically opens up between the drain and the source, and that lets a whole lot more current flow through to power whatever you've got hooked up, like a motor or some lights. Take that voltage away from the gate, the channel slams shut. Boom, on, off. Simple as that. So how does this stack up against something like an old-school mechanical relay? Well, a relay does the same job, but it's a big, clunky, physical switch. The MOSFET is millions of times faster. It can be microscopically tiny, it basically lasts forever, and it takes next to no power to actually flip it on. It really is a nearly perfect switch. Nearly. Because the second we step out of that perfect theory and into the real world, that beautiful, simple model starts to show some cracks. And these little imperfections are what engineers spend their entire careers trying to manage. So, we said applying a voltage to the gate turns it on. But is it really that simple? Is there one magic number where, 2.99 volts is off, but at exactly 3.0 volts it just snaps on perfectly? Well, no, not even close. The reality is this thing called the threshold voltage, and it's not a sharp, clean line. It's more of a fuzzy gray area. As you slowly raise the gate voltage, the MOSFET starts to conduct a little bit, then a little more. And in that in-between range, it's neither fully on nor fully off, which it turns out is a very dangerous place for it to hang out. And that brings us to our next little imperfection. See, because of the way they're built, every single MOSFET has this ugly little extra component baked right in. It's called a body diode. You can't get rid of it, it's just part of the physics. And its main job, or side effect, is that it lets current flow backward through the device, from source to drain, even when the main switch is supposed to be totally off. It's like a permanent, inefficient backdoor for current. All right, now for what is probably the biggest imperfection, and the source of one of a MOSFET's greatest enemies: heat. And this all comes down to one simple fact. When a MOSFET is on, its channel isn't a perfect wire with zero resistance. So check out this table. When the gate voltage is low, just barely over that threshold we talked about, the channel's resistance is massive. We're talking hundreds of thousands of ohms. But as we crank that gate voltage higher and higher, the resistance just plummets. When you drive the gate hard with something like 10 volts, you can get that resistance all the way down into the milliohms. That's just thousandths of an ohm. And that tiny bit of leftover resistance, we call that the on resistance, or RDS on. And anytime you push current through any kind of resistance, you get heat. The power you lose as heat is calculated by a simple formula: the current squared times that resistance. So you can see, even a tiny resistance can cause huge problems if the current is high enough. And here's a real-world example. Let's say you're pushing a pretty beefy 50 amps of current through a really good MOSFET with just 2 milliohms of resistance. That still creates 5 watts of pure waste heat. Now, 5 watts might not sound like a lot, but in a component the size of your fingernail, that's enough to cook it to death if you don't have a heatsink to pull that heat away. It's why so many of these parts are mostly just big metal tabs for cooling.
So far, we've covered problems that happen when the MOSFET is either on or off.
But you know where the real chaos happens? It's in that split-second transition between those states. And this is where we meet the secret, unwanted little components that are lurking inside every MOSFET, the parasitics.
First up is capacitance. The gate of a MOSFET isn't just a simple voltage input. It actually behaves like a tiny capacitor. To turn the thing on, you have to pump current in to charge up that little capacitor. To turn it off, you have to suck all that charge back out. This all takes time, which is why switching is never instant. It's also why you need powerful gate driver chips just to do this charging and discharging super fast. But there's one capacitor in there that is particularly nasty. It's the one between the gate and the drain, and we call it the Miller capacitance. This one can be absolutely deadly. If the voltage on the drain suddenly spikes up, this little capacitor can actually shove current back into the gate and turn the MOSFET on when it's supposed to be completely off. We call it Miller turn-on, and it can cause catastrophic, system-destroying failures. And finally, we've got parasitic inductance. Every tiny wire inside the MOSFET package has a little bit of inductance, and when you try to switch massive amounts of current in just a few nanoseconds, that inductance basically fights back. It creates these huge voltage spikes and a kind of high-frequency vibration. We call it ringing. This electrical noise can mess with other parts of your circuit, and those voltage spikes can easily be enough to just destroy the MOSFET instantly. Okay, so with all these ugly real-world problems, the heat, the delays, the ringing, the accidental turn-on, how on earth do we get anything to work at all? Well, that's where some very clever engineering comes in. The name of the game isn't finding a perfect switch. It's about learning how to tame the imperfections of the real one. Here are just a few of the tricks engineers use. To calm down that violent voltage ringing, they'll often add a tiny little resistor to the gate, which acts like a shock absorber for the electrical signal. They design their circuit boards with almost obsessive care to keep all the wires short and wide to minimize that inductance. Some MOSFETs even have a special fourth pin, a Kelvin source, that gives the sensitive gate control its own clean ground connection, away from the noisy, high-power stuff. And to fight that dangerous Miller turn-on, they might even drive the gate to a negative voltage, like -5 volts, just to give it a much stronger off command. It really is a constant battle against physics. Okay, so the regular old silicon MOSFET we've been talking about, it's the undisputed king, the workhorse of the entire industry. But as we keep pushing for more speed and more efficiency, it's starting to meet some serious competition from its high-tech relatives. So let's meet the new kid on the block, gallium nitride, or GaN for short. Now, these devices work kind of like MOSFETs, but their performance is just stunning. They can switch way faster, with lower resistance and fewer of those nasty parasitic effects than silicon can. What this means is we can build power supplies and chargers that are ridiculously small and incredibly efficient. Just to put it in perspective, a tiny GaN device can handle 300 times the current of a silicon MOSFET of the same size. That's why your new phone charger is probably a fraction of the size of your old one. It's an absolute game changer. So when you step back, the MOSFET is this amazing world-changing device that's also, deeply flawed. Its entire history is this incredible story of engineers finding one clever trick after another to work around the fundamental limits of physics. And that kind of leads to a final thought. After decades of taming this tiny beast, and with wild new materials like gallium nitride totally rewriting the rules, what does the truly perfect electronic switch of the future even look like? And what new things will it let us build?